Greetings, everyone. Today is day 8 of the Navarasa Series, Decoding the 9 Emotions of Navaratri. Today's emotion is Adbutha or wonder, which means amazement, surprise. And the moment we are surprised, we become curious, and curiosity is the mother of all inventions. And today I have my guest, Miss Rajani Uttarkar, who is an entrepreneur. She's a teacher trainer and she loves working with kids. And so there couldn't have been anybody else who could speak better on this topic of curiosity because she is nurturing it right from their preschool days. Welcome to the show, Rajni.
Thank you, Megha. Thank you so much. Uh, it's a wonderful being for a part of this program, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So I'll take a deep dive into my first question. And since you interact with kids, kids are always very curious, asking questions. But as we grow up, this asking questions reduces. And we also, stop looking at things with surprise or amazement. We start taking things for granted. So, why is it very important that we foster curiosity as a skill at the workplace?
The reason it is important to foster curiosity is it actually leads to problem solving.
Okay.
If you are a solution provider, actually every business is.
True.
Providing a solution in some form or the other, be it a commodity or a service. We are all solution providers. So as an entrepreneur or as an employer working with people, if we have to provide solutions, then curiosity has to be on top of our list.
Definitely.
And only then we will know the why, the how, and the when as well of a problem.
True.
So it is critical especially these days, when you have a lot of factors intervening, creating obstacles, and there are so many challenges that come up into your market zone. Let me use that term. In your market zone, curiosity has to be there. You need to know about yourself. Be curious about yourself. Be curious about your community that you are catering to. Be curious about your competitors. What are they doing and why are they your competitor? Why do you consider them your competitor, or why do they consider you as a competitor? So the curiosity is something that we all need to have as entrepreneurs or employees.
True. So I think very nice inputs in terms of how it helps us to continue, working on the path that we are traveling. Because if we know the why, then we will always find how. So I think an excellent, takeaway. So now, so my next question is, how do we build this curiosity at work?
The way I would look at, I would speak from the perspective of being a teacher and a mentor for teachers. I would allow them to actually accept different perspectives. Only when you are open to even considering a perspective, not shutting it away, not being judgmental, not only narrowing it down to something that concerns you. Even if it doesn't concern you, then only then I would allow my staff, I would allow my subordinates, I would allow my employees, sorry to be using that word, I wouldn't want to do that, I would allow my office, my school to function where curiosity is acceptable. Also, most of the time, we don't encourage it because we ourselves will not be able to deal with the questions that come up when somebody is curious. But then why is it? But then how is it? When all these questions come, we ourselves should be able to deal with it on an emotional front, on a sentimental level, before we either answer it or allow my teachers to go find their own answers.
True.
Brushing it under the carpet actually doesn't work. And that is one reason why I would encourage my teachers to be curious and hear out a perception.
True. So I think, like, why do you actually said it very right that we don't want to answer so many questions. So at times we say, okay, fine, because it requires so many skills. It requires a listening skill. It requires patience to handle that questions. And that's why, sometimes we say, okay, fine, we don't encourage it in the workplace. So I think very important takeaway is that if you want to build on innovations, if you want to continue growing, then be emotionally strong as a person to answer those questions. So it's such an interesting conversation, Now, can you tell me, some examples of, how being curious or inquisitiveness in a workplace has helped, or anything from your long experience that you would love to share with us?
An interesting thing was I recently did a storytelling session with 3 and 4 year olds.
Okay.
And I did not want to use any flashcards, props as such to do storytelling. I believe in it differently. There is no right or wrong. It's just my conviction and my perception. So I asked the young ones if they had seen a rat,
Okay.
and they said yes. So where did you see the rat? So there came about many answers: kitchen, garden, all over the place, and all those answers came. And I asked them, what would the rat eat?
Okay.
So again, there were many different answers that came. One child said, rat ate upma.
Okay.
So I said, okay, but why upma? Isn't it spicy? There will be chilies and all that. No, the upma was on the table, and the rat came and took it away. So that means, without asking why the child is giving me that answer, I can't brush it aside and say, but no, but the rat will not eat upma. The child has seen, and that is why she's telling me. So in her house, it has happened. We had an example in the story of a granary, a place of storage where farmers keep all their produce. But the children these days wouldn't know anything beyond a storeroom.
True.
So I asked where their mamas would keep rice. And again, plastic cover, bags came up. One child again said, pressure cooker, prestige cooker. So I said, did you not see rice being kept anywhere else? She said, no, every time rice is in the cooker only in my house. So for her, that is reality. You can't deny the fact that the child hasn't seen the mother pick it up from a storage box, a container, and put it in the cooker. Every time for her, rice has always been cooker. You cannot say no, because today truth has multiple dimensions, and most of them are literally right. And that is how we would allow children to try and relate a story to a real life, try and relate an experience or, or a conversation to something that that the child would look at in a home scenario, because the child's whole world is a house, and that's where I work with children.
True. So I think, it brings a lot of perspective into that. every person's journey in the corporate world is very different. Just like a child's journey to school is limited to his house. They don't know, that rice can be stored in some other place also. They just know, like in your example, it was stored in a pressure cooker only. So, so I think, that's the perspective, that every individual's journey in the corporate is very different. So that's why, we need to have more empathy, and we need to understand the journey so that we can accelerate the career growth and then achieve the organizational inputs. I mean, that's a
Yes.
very, that's why it's, very interesting to talk to people from different sectors. Otherwise, it's very inside out approach. And what
Yes.
you're saying is you're bringing a different perspective, but that is really valuable across categories and segments.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
If I can add to it,
Sure.
everybody's life experiences are going to be very different.
True.
India being such a diverse place, you have cultural variations, you have geographical variations, and today our lifestyles have become so diverse. There are no two people even in a home who are similar. Today, probably we can, with a little bit of conviction and confidence, we can say that even identical twins are only superficial. Beyond that, they don't have any identical personalities.
True.
So, with such diversity, it actually brings in a lot of, requires a lot of empathy to understand a perception and dig in a little bit to say, but why is that happening, or why is that statement made, but why is it done in a certain manner? So I think curiosity and the wonder, which is the next level, you would want to know why and all that stuff, so is something that you would require in every aspect of our, not just workspaces, but even our living spaces.
Definitely, definitely. So, like you said, that curiosity requires a lot of patience from the person, whether at the corporate place or at house, to answer those questions. Like even in the workspaces, you'll have why, unless it is communicated to the teams, why they are doing, why they're spending an extra hour in the office, why they are doing that extra, taking that extra path.
Yes.
So would you consider that curiosity is a strength, or can it also become a weakness at times? So how do we balance the two? Is it a strength, is it a weakness, or there is a midway?
At this point in time, for this question, communication becomes a key aspect.
Okay.
Let us talk in terms of targets set.
Okay.
Why is a company setting us, giving us a target to achieve? Why are they driving us so much to achieve those targets?
True.
If as an organization we can be a little transparent and tell them, see, these are how the things evolve, and at the back end, this is how we function. The communication is something which becomes a key. While it is a strength for every organization as a solution provider into the community, if it is not conveyed properly to its stakeholders, be it employees or be it their customers, consumers, clients, whatever we would want to call, every stakeholder has the right to be knowing how a system functions, a process is undertaken. While that is there, if it is not communicated properly and there is way little transparency, then it becomes a weakness.
Definitely. So I think a very important point here that you have brought up is communicating to these stakeholders in an efficient manner. It should not be that they should understand what they're doing, why they're doing, and all the stakeholders should be involved in the process. And that's how, it becomes easier to achieve goals and targets. So, we've been discussing, curiosity is always associated with this word why, W. So, what is this? How much power would you give to this word why? how can we,
On a scale of
not on a scale of 1 to 10, but, essentially, what is the thought process beyond, like asking questions, if we were to set certain goals, for example, a lot of people, at New Year would set up those fantastic goals,
resolution.
yeah, resolutions. But we've been seeing it, all these go fizzle out within 10, 15 days. So why, so do you think that uneven for us as individuals, when we are doing things, it is important to understand why we are doing what we are doing? Instead of, sometimes, it's not only limited to employees and corporates, it is also limited to people when they are setting their goals, their personal goals, their wealth goals, to understand why what they are doing. Because I really find it very amusing that everybody is running in this rat race, and some people have taken a road less traveled. But if we know why we are running, we want to make money, but how much money? And why do you need that so much money? Because we're not going to live on earth for till eternity. So it'll be a few years, you never know when. So I think, how do you see this, concept of why, and asking questions, not only to team members and from the corporate standpoint, but also from an individual standpoint, why we need to understand what we are doing?
We all have the thirst for achievement, and achievement is a high.
True, true.
Once you achieve, then even small steps,
True.
Once you achieve, it becomes an addiction.
True.
Let us not talk about what is positive and negative. Achievement is an achievement. I have wanted to be slim to wear a gown, so I have achieved a target. So
Okay.
every achievement gives us a high, and that is the reason we set the goals. That is why we set the goals, and unless until we are curious to know, how can I reach my goal? Why should I reach my goal? I am already aware.
True.
How do I reach is a curiosity. I will definitely do a lot of research to make my journey easier. I would want to achieve it the easiest way. I would want to eat, still lose weight.
It's true.
Right? So that's something we all look at. I would do the least, spend the least to look good. Skincare regime or something like that. So the why becomes critical for setting a goal, for achieving, and it becomes an addiction.
Wow. So because we are so, addicted to getting those highs of achievement, that's why we need to understand our why very carefully. And only then, like you rightly said, we'll be able to figure out the how behind it. Fantastic, fantastic. I think, yeah. So now that, so let me talk in the context of the organization piece also. So how can leaders, foster this culture of listening, foster this culture of inquisitiveness? Because we all understand that only if there is a culture of innovation will the company be able to sustain itself. And like AI is changing everything now. So how do you, how do we build this culture, whether at educational institutes, especially educational institutes, because that lays the foundation for whatever we'll be doing in the, in the next stage. So how do we foster this culture of inquisitiveness?
One, while we as teachers are having a teaching learning process, we actually teach, but we don't allow the child to learn.
Okay.
It has always been one-sided till now. Only in the past few years has it seen a trend changing the world over. But then we always say, I taught, but the child didn't learn. I taught the same thing. Somebody performed, but somebody didn't perform. No, it cannot be. We are not allowing the children to learn because learning and curiosity are hand in hand. It cannot be different and separated. So please allow the child to learn. While the child learns and there are questions, of course, there are limits where we say, okay, but beyond this, it is something that isn't relevant. So these are all irrelevant questions. We allow the child to ask questions first, but then stop them. And that is when the child understands that there is a limit to the curiosity as well. Over and above, it becomes dangerous, it becomes immaterial, it actually becomes unnecessary and leads you to so many things. There is more confusion than curiosity. So we as teachers should nurture a child to learn. Let and failure also is a part of the learning process.
Okay.
That means just because the child steps forward to learn and doesn't achieve something doesn't mean the child is a failure.
True.
Doesn't mean the child is a low performer. It actually means there is a different path. Can we help the child find that path? It doesn't take a long time, for it doesn't require us to deviate from our syllabus, from our teaching. It doesn't take a huge sit down conversation with the child. It actually helps, or it actually requires the teacher to change the bandwidth of their thinking process. Once the bandwidth and the frequency is set, it is an automated process for the teacher to ensure that the learning happens. But we are not allowing that in the teachers because as an institution, we don't allow the teachers only to ask questions. Where will the teacher go and allow a child to ask questions? So as leaders, it becomes critical that we hold ourselves, we tweak ourselves, we change our frequency to allow the curiosity to happen right at the top. We can't start bottoms up. We can't start at the child level. It has to be up because we are the ones who need to deal with our emotions first before we transfer it on to the students. We rub it off on the students.
True. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a very systematic change in approach that we require. And a lot of times it doesn't require big changes. Even if we start at small molecular level, then we can actually, go on to making changes, impacting, if there is a change in one setup, then it will obviously rub off on the other. And that's how we need to build. And especially it's very critical. I think these are very beautiful discussions, because it's very important to understand that the times have changed dramatically. Now with the AI taking care of so many things, I don't know, I mean, it's going to be a very difficult phase,
Yes.
challenge for parenting, for teachers, to nurture those kind of skills, because otherwise, for everything, if the child is going to listen and hear answers from Google or from AI, from Facebook, then what's the point of being?
Alexa is replacing us.
Yeah, Alexa, definitely, yes. So, to an extent, yes, we should be using it for an advantage, but then we also need to nurture those skills and have a balance of between curiosity and not, letting it overpower us. So, before I let you go, my last question would be, how can we build more amazing workplaces and societies around us, so that work, basically, when we are curious, we also have this element of surprise and giving joy to others. How can we build that in small little ways, like you said earlier? So, how do we nurture that in the corporate workplace, in the educational workspace?
uh, any workspace for that matter does include to a large extent people irrespective of however IT enabled or AI has taken up space, especially in the education industry. You cannot replace teachers. We can all say robots and all that stuff, but then an emotional connect with the child is very essential for the learning and the transfer of knowledge to happen. So I don't see that happening very soon in the education sector. And how can we do it as inclusion? Please try and bring in people who can bring in different perceptions, who can actually contribute to a different style of learning. Not everybody can be so diverse that I will teach in a lecture method today, I will teach in activity based tomorrow. I cannot have, every teacher has that style, like every child has a learning style. So inclusion is something that actually builds in the curiosity, builds empathy, and allows us to understand a different perception. And that is when we will be better solution providers, we will be better, uh, our reach will be different, and it actually nurtures innovation as well.
Definitely. So basically, only if we allow learning from different perspectives and have this ability to listen, to ability to nurture, different kinds of scenarios, the what if analysis and the hypothesis that we do in the technical domain, if we allow it to an experiment. So, like you said, so I think it's these are beautiful concepts, and I hope it will be implemented in the educational space across India to start with, because that's what 1.4 billion people. So it was a pleasure talking to you, Ms. Rajani. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for coming and giving us these deep insights and talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Megha.
Thank you.